we like to tell these stories about sort of seemingly everyday subjects, but then looking at it in a big kind of global context. So with both films, Barbecue and We Don't Deserve Dogs, they are both examples of that. Very everyday things, like in Australia or the States, we all know what it's like to have a barbecue, sit around with family, or we know what it's like to have a dog, but maybe we don't know what that is like for, you know, someone on the other side of the world. So we like to take, these little everyday things and then really, really explore it out and look at the sort of things that humans have in common, no matter where you are in the world. Barbecue was a culmination of many years working on short documentaries, actually. So we created a series of short documentaries. The very first one we ever made was about the sole remaining resident of a ghost town in Argentina. That was our first short documentary we made with just the two of us. We submitted that to some film festivals and it got selected, and it played at a big festival here in the US called Slam Dance. And so we traveled over to attend that screening in America. And while we were there, we're like, well, we should do a road trip, you know, through Southern America while we're here. So we actually drove all through, we drove from Vegas to New Orleans. And part of that trip involved spending a lot of time in Texas. And while we were there, we were like, wow, barbecue is a really big thing.
It's a whole nother thing here. We thought we knew it in Australia, but it's a whole other thing here.
And we're like, God, this is worthy of a short documentary. This heritage of barbecue in Central Texas. And so we made a short documentary about barbecue in Central Texas. And it was just people being passionate and talking about their history and their heritage and how important this thing is to their community. And we're like, okay, that was real proof of concept. We got asked, what do you want to do next? And we were like, we would like to do that, but on a global scale.
Yeah,
so,
we've been very independent sort of our whole lives, but just at that particular point, we were getting interest from a lot of Australian film is funded by government agencies. And so they said, well, what do you want to do next? And you know, we've been very independent. We had done things without their help. So almost as a joke, we said, oh, we'd like to do that around the world and we'd like you guys to pay for it. And
this is the first time and only time we've had government funding for a film.
And we were almost just daring them not to. And they're like, sounds great. And we're like, oh, okay. So we are now going around the world shooting this film about barbecue. And so that was, you know, I think like Rosie said, what we developed with that short documentary we did is, I think any documentary that gets people talking passionately about a subject is really close to our hearts, the kind of documentary we want to make. And going through Central Texas, we just realized how much passion, how much heritage, how much people have to say. And so when you see people's eyes light up and them talking so passionately about this subject, you know, for us, that was sort of, I guess, the driving force. And then as we were sort of developing the idea of turning it into a bigger film, everyone would get very passionate about it. You'd be in a cab on the way home, and you'd tell people you'd tell the driver what you're doing, and he'd insist you'd have to go to his country. Some of the countries in the film, like Armenia, were just brought about by, like, we just saw someone on YouTube talking passionately about their barbecue. Their horovats in Armenia, and we talked to them on the phone and said, yeah, come on over. Like, it was a lot of passion. And I think that,
opened a lot of doors, and it was a great way to sort of explore cultures through this thing that people wanted to share with us.